Good morning or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to the Bubba and Johnny Warrior Show. Johnny will be here shortly. So now it is just me that you have. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing great today. And today we're going to talk about Project MK Ultra, which was the CIA's behavior modification program, which was started in the was started in like the early 50s. It began and was officially sanctioned in 1953, was reduced in scope in 1964, further curtailed in 1967, and officially halted in 1973. The program engaged in many illegal activities. In particular, it used unwitting U.S. and Canadian citizens as its test subjects, which led to controversy regarding its legitimacy. What they did was they used a lot of different methodologies to manipulate people's mental states and alter brain functions, including the administration of drugs, especially LSD, and other chemicals. They did hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, as well as various forms of torture. The scope of it was broad. They did research at 80 institutions, including 44 colleges and universities, as well as hospitals, prisons, and, gee, here's a surprise, pharmaceutical companies. The CIA used a lot of these institutions as front organizations, although sometimes some of the officials, the higher ups at these institutions, were aware of the CIA involvement. So, and the Supreme Court later noted that MK Ultra was, quote, concerned with the research and development of chemical, biological, and radiological materials capable of employment in clandestine operations to control human behavior. The program consisted of some 149 sub-projects, which the agency contracted out to various universities, research foundations, and similar institutions. At least 80 institutions and 185 private researchers participated. Because the agency funded MK Ultra indirectly, many of the participating individuals were unaware that they were dealing with the agency. Okay, end quote. Now, it was first brought to the public attention by the Church Committee in 1975 by the U.S. Congress and the Gerald Ford Commission to investigate CIA activities within the United States. Because remember, the CIA was supposed to be responsible for foreign espionage or overseas, whereas the FBI was supposed to be in control or in charge of domestic spying and things of that nature. So I guess with this is where the line really started to become blurred as far as what agency is responsible for what. Anyway, the investigative efforts were hampered by the fact that CIA director at the time, Richard Helms, ordered all the files destroyed in 1973. But the Church Committee and Rockefeller Commission investigations all relied on sworn testimony of direct participants and the relatively small number of documents that survived Helms' destruction order. Finally, in 1977, a Freedom of Information Act request uncovered a cache of 20,000 documents relating directly to Project MK Ultra, which led to Senate hearings later that same year. And in July 2001, some surviving information regarding MK Ultra was declassified. So here you have, for years and years, they were experimenting on people, on behavior modification, and influencing people's minds directly through the use of drugs and pharmaceuticals and things like that. So, which spying, we all know, is a pretty dirty business anyway to begin with. But you know, when you're using, you know, U.S. citizens as unwitting guinea pigs, that's kind of where you're crossing the line. So this stuff is not good. But anyway, how is everybody doing today? All right, one thumbs down already. How about that? Got to have them trolls around. Anyway, oh well. How is everybody doing today? Typing. Okay. Back to our topic. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, here's the funny part. This will kind of read like a who's who, because the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, this is back in the early 70s, and some of these names really hung around a lot. Okay, the chairman was Daniel Inouye, who was a senator from Hawaii and was in office for years. Barry Goldwater from Arizona was the vice chairman. And some of the people, other names on this committee, which will stick out, was Joseph R. Biden Jr. from Delaware. And this, keep in mind, this is from, I think, 1973. So we had a lot of these people around forever. Gary Hart was another member. Patrick Moynihan from New York. Robert C. Byrd. Richard Lugar from Indiana, who ran for president. I believe he was a Republican, but I'm not positive. And of course, Robert C. Byrd of West Virginia, and Howard Baker Jr., from Tennessee, who I remember served in the Reagan administration. And then some others, Committee on Human Resources, which was also a part of it. Edward M. Kennedy of Massachusetts, of course. Alan Cranston, Orrin Hatch. So a lot of these names are a great argument for term limits, as you can see, because they've been up there for years and years and years and years and years. Okay, this was actually in 1977. So as you can see, career politicians. But anyway, I will also post the PDF file I have on the hearing. It's 174 pages. So if you want to read it front to back, hey, be my guest. Yeah, I guess you just have to be a real fanatic about this thing to want to read this stuff. But anyway, there were lots of reports of abuses in this report of the drug testing program, and reports of other previously unknown drug programs and projects for behavioral control. And it didn't really have any effective oversight procedures in a lot of this. And so, you know, I've always heard that at Woodstock, they actually allowed lots of LSD and drugs because they wanted to see how the people would behave. So I think a lot of that takes root in this MK Ultra project. That's where a lot of that came from. But anyway, excuse me there. I'm going to try to. Okay, hi Popeye. Don't get butthurt now, buddy. So anyway, how you doing, Dick Insider, Sir Liner, and Popeye? Anyway, let's get back to this here. Anyway, this file is very exhaustive. But the CIA drugged American citizens without their knowledge or consent, and it used university facilities and personnel without their knowledge. And a lot of times, as I said before, it was front organizations that the CIA had formed, which would be the economic equivalent of a dummy offshore dummy corporation overseas account to launder money. And this went on for well over 30 years. And a lot of the outstanding members of the scientific community were involved. Some of them had knowledge, some of them did not have knowledge. But it's kind of frightening when you think about it, considering the U.S. has a biomedical and behavioral research capability second to none, with all the institutions of higher learning and so on and so forth, hospitals, combined hospitals, universities, like you have Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. You've got a Duke University. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. But anyway, it's very interesting, and hopefully before long, Johnny will be along here to help, because I hate rambling on. But anyway, so what's been going on in people's lives? Have a little pause for the cause here. Okay, Wes, here's a little love for you too, brother. But I also sent Jason a link, and he has not showed up yet, so I don't know what's going on. I guess people are just busy. But anyway, let's get back to the report, which I said is very long and exhaustive. I would even venture to say too long and exhaustive. But anyway, they also saw this as the wave of the future, as far as special operations and things of that nature and intelligence gathering. But really, the fact that they were using people as guinea pigs without any kind of compensation, without their knowledge or anything of that nature, to me is just frightening. But they used human test subjects between 1940 and 1974. And they were sponsored by all departments of the military: the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, the Defense Nuclear Agency, the CIA, obviously, the Department of Energy, and the Department of Health and Human Services. The tests and experiments involved radiological, chemical, and biological research, and were conducted to support weapon development programs, and to identify methods to protect the health of military personnel against a variety of diseases and combat conditions, and analyze U.S. defense vulnerabilities, which to me kind of sounds like it's linking into the biological and chemical warfare aspect as well, when you think about it. Because, obviously you're conducting chemicals, which I guess where the drugs come in. And they often involved hazardous substances such as radiation, blister and nerve agents, biological agents, and lysergic acid dithylamide, which is LSD. And in some cases, a lot of basic safeguards to protect people were either not in place, or if they were in place, they were not followed. Because obviously, if you want to test on people without their knowledge, it's really kind of hard to put in safeguards, because you don't want the people to know that they're being used as guinea pigs. So, which kind of makes me think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was one of Ted Kaczynski's reasons for doing what he did, was talking about the mind-altering control and the test run on people and things of that nature, which can kind of bring us into modern day. So, I did not know that. That LSD around Bragg in the 90s. Gee, that's not a surprise. Eugenics in the 1950s. Yes, but eugenics actually really started in the Third Reich, because they instituted a eugenics program to get rid of the mentally ill, the physically deformed who were born that way. Basically, if you were born deformed or with a mental defect, they would, in order to make a better, stronger race of people, what have you, they actually instituted eugenics to get rid of those people, therefore thinking in theory that it would strengthen the gene pool and you would make a better, smarter, stronger human being. Which, it's funny because I think that, which kind of links to me, that if somebody's really into Darwinism and believes in Darwinism, then I think the only natural conclusion would be something akin to Nazism. Maybe not along the racial lines, but as far as along the human perfection mode or line of thinking, I think that would be the only natural conclusion. So, which then means you're playing God, which is wrong. So, but anyway, sorry for the pauses, guys. But anyway, would any of the audience actually like to come on and talk about it? Yep, the Unabomber. $5 a tab. Yeah, it was cheap. That's true. If you have no oversight, you can play God. That's for sure. Oh, there it is. Hop on. Damn, that's a big old mango just fell out of the tree.
Yes, you're my little lover boy.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, I heard that one. I heard that mango fall, brother.
Yeah, it fell all right. I almost got
fine.
hit in the head earlier by one. I'm glad I heard it hit the roof. So, okay. So what do you know about MK Ultra or mind control or all that? Being ex-military, expand our knowledge.
Oh, well, in the 80s, I was got to my first ship, the Eisenhower, CVN 69, great hull number. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great number.
Loved it. And when I got there, I really didn't know much about drugs, to tell you the truth. I was only 19 years old, fresh out of school. All right. And I was in this division called Surface to Air Missiles Division, SAM Division. And we went down to the Amplidyne room that generates the power for the system. And there, everybody's all sitting around in a circle, passing the magic doobie. Right? And this one kid in the corner, he looked up at me and he says, "Hey, I got something special. And he pulled out a whole roll. And on there, and I said, what the hell is that? He goes, you just place this on your tongue. And you're going to feel magic in about 30 minutes. And I said, yeah, you can keep that. All right. And we actually had guys in Combat Information Center sitting over Mark 48 radars, fire control panels. They were jacked up on LSD.
Oh, God.
Okay.
And these guys are actually running the ship.
They're running a ship. I shit you not, man. It was prolific. It was just like we were in the middle of the Indian Ocean at the time. This was going on during the during the Iranian crisis, 1980, just before.
Yep. November.
Right, just before Ronald Reagan was about to come into office. And we had Peanuts in office. You know, hi, my name is Jimmy Carter, and I want to be your president. Okay.
God, yeah. Fucking
you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm literally sitting on watch on the fire control panel and drinking my coffee and looking over, and the guy on the Mark 48 radar control panel, he is like just clammy, sweating, basketballs for eyes.
Oh,
and
God.
Yeah, I shit you not. And I'm like, holy fuck, what did I get myself into? And there were even officers, it went as high as officers on the ship that were selling this stuff. Okay?
Oh, God.
All right. So when you talk about MK and you talk about how they experiment, I fully believe it because it was so prolific in all the commands. And it was like everybody was looking the other way. I mean, they're just looking the other way. Well, you're doing your job. They're just looking the other way.
Oh, God.
So how do you think that stands from a political view of what you're talking about?
What in the
here?
hell was that?
We were just
Who was
talking about
howling?
Oh, it's some street vendor going down the street. But
Okay.
we were just talking about the effectiveness of the U.S. Navy under the influence of LSD.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I think that was more common in Vietnam. The modern versions of this. Hey Robert, do you remember something called flight packs?
I think I've heard of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they gave them to aviators, but they also gave them to special operations. During Desert Storm, they gave us piles of these things. And it's a cycled pack, meaning, they're labeled. And when we went and did alert, you start taking pack 1 through 14, and it's a measured dosage of amphetamines. So, and when you come, and when you come back for 2 days straight, you're on Valium.
oh,
So it's not just LSD. It's, the military will use, it got to the point none of us wanted to take that stuff. And in order to stay awake, I was popping epinephrine. You remember how you do a PPD? It's called a subcutaneous injection, where it produces a little bubble and then it's slowly absorbed into the skin for tuberculosis testing.
Yeah.
I used to do that with epinephrine on myself in order to avoid taking flight packs. We would do things like dip coffee grounds or, just swallow the instant coffee out of the MREs. And we do all kinds of things not to have to take those flight packs. And the only effective thing that I could find that really worked, that was semi kind of, was epinephrine at low dosage measured through a subcutaneous release.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's one way to keep yourself awake. Although you look like a drug user because you got black and blue marks and tracks all up down your arm. People looking at you kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then you're going and seeing a guy like Robert. He's sending you to rehab.
Well, I actually thought that heroin was more prolific during the Vietnam era.
That's what I always thought. Yeah. That and weed.
Oh no, the military used LSD on units to try to, because there was a lot of the way the military works in organizing and testing drugs or performance enhancers or anything like that is you got to look at what's going on socially at the time. And the passive movement was huge during the 60s. So the military had this huge fear that the soldiers and Marines that they were producing weren't going to engage in battle on a battlefield. Then you couple that with the fact that marijuana was used prolifically on the line, right? What are you going to do to entice these individuals to get that? Look, and look, anybody that's listening, if you're a Vietnam vet, I am not saying this as an insult. But if you look at the soldier that you have in Vietnam and the soldier you have on the battlefield today, and you're going to see that the soldier today is more willing to pull the trigger and engage than a soldier in the 60s. So why is that? All right. So here is, I don't have the messages, guys. So you're going to have to tell me what the message window, if I'm pissing anybody off or not.
Okay.
But,
you're cool so far.
Yeah. There's one question.
What?
Is there a relationship between flight pack and PTSD?
I don't know. I actually can't answer that. I don't think so, because not everybody that has PTSD have flight packs. But see, you got to understand, the only time I used the flight packs, I never had to use those in Iraq, right? It was only during the Gulf War back in the 90s that I know that we used them. And I would say that there's probably more of an association with NAP pills, which is the nerve agent chemoprophylaxis that they gave us, right? To a lot of these ailments that are going out than there is anything else. I mean, even the anthrax vaccine, I don't think is carrying as much secondary stuff as like the NAP pills. I think there's more association with that than there is with the flight pills, because it was measured amphetamines, So I mean, I think there's probably a correlation between addiction and those that are using flight packs more than there is PTSD. Now back to my original thought as far as the social. If you look at the social experiment of what the difference is, you look at a lot of original first shooter games, and you're going to see that there was a very concerted effort to put forth as much gaming that has realistic battlefield scenarios as possible. And what that's doing is the military, the government is pre-programming our youth. It's kind of disgusting. Because by allowing the youth to be sterilized of having any connection between the atrocities of war, right? You're numbing them. You're numbing those vital, key ethical values that question you when you start to pull the trigger. And that's why you're going to find it's not anything like a soldier in the 60s was less of a man than a soldier in in today's service. In fact, probably the other way around, because they had more ethics, values, and ethos back then than they do now. They don't have that socially anymore. And I think that's why you're finding soldiers that can fight so much more aggressively and have a lot quicker learning curve on the battlefield relative to, targeting, plus they're trained repetitively. They are trained repetitively to, body mass. You know what I mean? It's a numbers game rather than, oh, look, identify your target and stuff like that. It's a numbers game, identify it.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
And my question is, do you really think we can win a war with those ethos values you speak of days gone by in today's more modern warfare?
Do I think so? Yes,
Yeah.
I do. I think it's still possible. But the problem is society capable of handling the toll of that type of war? And the answer to that is no. There is no way that society is going to handle a high attrition war at all. The minute you get body counts into the 100,000s and stuff like that, like in Vietnam or anything. I mean, look at Iraq. I mean, they rarely talk to numbers in Iraq based on the simple fact that they didn't want to shock everybody who was going on. Or that was what was going on. They rarely would talk that. And, they would shift the focus over to Afghanistan. And if you look at the numbers and the ratios of the KIA and battlefield injuries against each other, I mean, there's stark contrast, dude. Afghanistan doesn't have much of anything to what the whole entire Iraq campaign was, period. That's just the way it is, And I'm not trying to argue one is more. Whatever. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, here's the models. All right, in Afghanistan, okay, when you go out on patrol or you go out and do support, right? There's a couple differences. Number one, more often than not, with the exception of a few units that were like totally told you will dismount, when you get hit, you're going to push through any contact and get to a secure area to where you can reconnoiter, and then you're going to stack it up. Then you're going to go towards the enemy. Very rarely do they stop and dismount and, go after the enemy. In Iraq, you didn't really have that option because of the terrain. When you're in the middle of Sadr City, Fallujah, Mosul, whatever, in order to clear and get out, you have to dismount and fight your way out. Number one. Number two, you had direct artillery and direct air support almost on call. Very rarely were you in a situation that you could not use artillery, mortar fire, or air support in Afghanistan. Very rarely were you in an area where you could use anything but what's called Overwatch, which was an Apache that would hang in your sector. The minute that you freaking had some issues, it would come in and they'd launch a couple Hellfires in support. But what you were doing was pacifying it until QRF came on and reinforced you, and you were still fighting your way out of there.
Now, what's QRF, John? Not the
quick reaction force.
Okay.
Like I got into a tick in southern Sadr City where some prick-ass freaking Iraqi police officers, turncoated on us, and they knew our patrol route, so they got us into a crossfire.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we dismounted, right? And I called in Overwatch, and the 82nd Airborne was actually the QRF to us. They were en route. I mean, they basically did cleanup because, it wasn't that big. It was hot, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like a sizable force. It was my team, and it was an Iraqi Special Forces team that were working hand in hand. So there was enough there. There was enough firepower. But
okay.
That's what I'm saying. Is it's QRF comes in and reinforces you. Now they do that too in in Afghanistan, but it's usually like if a COB, right, combat outpost, right, or a combat operations base, or is what a COB is, gets hit real hard, they'll air assault in a QRF or land a QRF on one terrain feature away and move them in, you know, to cut them off and then kind of hammer and anvil them. So, you know, it's different. It's different. That's a lot. The war. So when we're talking about, to answer your question, Robert,
Okay.
I don't know that society today would handle those kind of ethos or values. Now, we still have them in the military. And to tell you the truth, I think it's the last vestige. Don't think that these guys are heartless killers. They're not. It's just that they're more numb to it. They're more immune, and they're trained reactively rather than thoughtfully. Okay.
Well, I agree with you on that, and I think we're going to do what we have to do. All right, but my bottom line is, I don't want to see those ethos and those values get in the way when it comes to pushing the button.
You're looking at them
in a firefight.
You're looking at them wrong, because a lot of these guys that are coming into the service today socially do not have a value system. So those set of values are the only thing that's going to keep them in check and keep it, you know, keep it balanced per se. You know, it's not a situation where you're gonna find, you know, oh my gosh, you know, selfless. No, because look at what the values and the ethos are: selfless service, courage, you know, honor, integrity. You know, those aren't things it's not pacified bitches or pussies. That's not values or ethos that are taught to the warfighters of today. You know, get some, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, you talk muscle memory, you talk, you know, I mean, I don't know how, it's difficult to explain without experiencing it, and I'm trying hard in a difficult situation here, but
it's way too difficult to explain. Trust me on that. I'm getting your meaning. Yeah.
You know, if you like some of the combat towns that I got the privilege of operating on, one of the units that I had access, you know, it was basically theirs because of the part of the camp that they were on. And, you know, our combat town had sewers, you know, it had access. We could train, mount, you know, what old school CQB is the old school term to it, but mount is movement over urban terrain or transitional. So if, let's say, you're inserted into, you know, a heavily wooded area, you got to transition that into an urban area, right? Well, there's a technique called mount, or movement over urban terrain, transition you into urban combat, where your mentality is different, because instead of, you know, yards, you're actually fighting inches, rooms, you know, corners. You know, you're using angles rather than linear, you know, fire lanes. There's a lot of difference between those two types of warfare, and it requires muscle memory in order to do that reactively. And that is where they're using ethos and values to keep that in check. Because if you have everybody who's just reactionary, what you're going to have is a mess, a hot mess. You know, just shooting off everything if they're blindly thinking whatever. You don't want that. You want people who are thinking and who are, you know, willing to preserve life to the last degree until that moment is absolutely necessary.
Wow.
But see, these drugs that they used in the past were meant to, you know, the LSD, that's what it was meant to do. Okay. Lo and behold, it's not, the answer wasn't chemical. It was behavioral. The stupid video games. That's the first line of it. It's a brainwashing technique. It's desensitizing. making people immune to compassion and empathy. You know, giving them a cause, whether it's reality or a figurative cause, or even if, as absurd as it is sometimes, those causes are absolutely ridiculous.
Okay. Now, here's another question, an interesting question, I think. Do you think MK Ultra could have led into a lot of the media stuff we have going on today? For instance, the graphic violence in movies and things of that nature, the education system, because really you could kind of look at that as an offshoot of behavior modification.
Give me 1 minute to think. Hold on 1 second. Robert can answer this.
Shoot that again. Shoot that question one more time again.
Are you not paying attention?
I apologize. I was reading the chat. Please forgive me, sir.
Too much acid in the Navy. It's all right. Now, do you think MK Ultra, you could kind of consider the media, the public education system, and things like that as a form of behavior modification, an offshoot of the original MK Ultra project?
Sure, why not? I mean, the media is all about friggin' mind control. They're all about getting you to believe their narrative, their politics, their way of thinking. Okay? It's all about control. Okay? And I give you a prime example. In '82, the Nimitz had a very bad accident, crashed planes on the deck. Well, the Navy said, you know what? Something's wrong.
Was that the
here.
Nimitz or the Forrestal?
Nimitz. Forrestal was in the Vietnam area.
USS Forest Fire.
Now, I heard that started because a certain senator dry fire started his plane or something like that, and there was a missile behind it or some bullshit, and it caught on fire. I don't know what the how that fire started.
Nobody really knows the official, but it's one hell of a training film that they even show today in the United States Navy. And anyway, back to the Nimitz, when they had those.
Hey, before we go to the Nimitz, I got to ask a very, 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 very important question.
Sure.
And I'm hoping somebody, this is a little more pertinent, and you'll understand why I'm asking. Can anybody confirm that Russia did indeed pull its embassy in California?
Have not seen anything on the news, bro.
Okay, because I am getting messages from, okay, and you understand the magnitude of that, right? That's not something to take light. That's a really big indicator.
Yeah.
That's fucking huge. That's pre-war crap.
Shit. Yeah, that's back to the Cold War shit.
So if anybody could please somehow confirm, or just totally write that one off so I don't lose sleep, because there's a couple things that has happened recently that's got me.
What source did
this whole, I've got it from, I'm getting it from people that I used to work with that said, hey, did you hear, is it true that Russia pulled their embassy out of California? So they're asking me, and I don't know, I haven't heard an official, I usually get an email from a guy that I work with stuff like that, but I haven't heard from him either, which kind of concerns me a little bit. But they said, this is what I heard. Okay.
Yeah. Well, if I get any news on it, I'll shoot you.
Heard Russian consulate closed in California. So it was a consulate in California, Russian consulate in California that closed.
Okay, I'm actually Googling it now.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
Well, I know why. I'll tell you why. I just need to make sure okay, number one, did it close? Number two, making sure it's not some stupid California EPA BS. And third, that leaves the last part of the
U.S.
So it
to
did.
shut U.S. to shut 3 Russian diplomatic buildings but expel no staffers.
Oh, that's old news.
Okay, what does that mean? What does that mean?
They've just been under the new sanctions. They've been kicking these dudes out.
Okay, there's a difference between kicking dudes out and closing
buildings.
Closing.
Yeah, big time.
But that's just
All
a
right,
consulate. It's not an embassy.
Well, it doesn't. A consulate's an annex. It's the same thing.
All right.
Okay, it's because it's a retaliation for Russia's decision in July ordering Washington to cut staff at its embassy and consulates.
Okay, so this is the tit for tat thing. All right, that's not as bad.
We are requiring the Russian government to close its consulate general in San Francisco, a chancery annex in Washington, D.C., and a consular annex in New York City. State Department spokeswoman Heather Nart said these closures.
Right.
These closures will need to be accomplished by September 2nd. Okay. But the staff, Moscow can reassign them to other consulates in the U.S. or the embassy in Washington.
Okay, I just need to know. I appreciate it. Okay, guys, I have to get back to packing. So I got to get these last boxes out. And I got to bow out for just a little bit.
Okay.
So, but I did promise that Bubba, I would come on and help as much as I can, and I hope I did.
Yeah,
I hope it was at least interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
All right, guys. Holler at you later.
All right, take care.
All right, Bubba.
Oh, by the way, everybody. This is the last Conspiracy Friday that me, Johnny Warrior, will be doing from Cebu City.
That's right.
Isn't that exciting?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It'll be Solano. All right, later, guys.
All right, take care, brother.
Yep. All right, back to the USS Nimitz.
Okay.
1982, I was on a med float, and the U.S. on the Eisenhower. And the Nimitz, she had a bad accident on the flight deck. Planes coming in, missed the hook, crashed, killed several sailors. All right, ugly, just ugly. They wanted a big ass inquiry. Fucking Ronnie wanted to know what the fuck was going down. You know, because my ship did a 180 days straight in the Indian Ocean during the Iranian crisis. No accidents. Nobody killed. Nobody killed. All right? That's 180 days straight at sea doing flight ops. Okay? They're actually out there for 9 months total. Okay? And before they even, got a whiff of a Liberty port. So what they decided to do is these new officers coming fresh out of the academy and up the chain of command said, well, let's piss test these assholes. Now you got to think, how would they know to piss test these assholes? Okay. Piss test. I never even heard of a piss test till all of a sudden they piss test all these motherfuckers. And guess what they found in their systems? Drugs. They found amphetamines. They found THC. They found LSD. And they even found some good old-fashioned cocaine. All right? So, what does the Navy decide to do? We got to clean this mess up. We got to sweep this shit under the rug. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to give everybody a 60-day grace period. Okay. And then we're going to start piss testing. Okay. You wouldn't believe it. I saw a kid. I saw all these guys coming to the, edge of the ship, throwing bongs, pipes, all kinds of shit. It's what we call float testing it.
Could have started a head shop.
Yeah. And what killed me is we're in Lebanon, right? Not Lebanon, excuse me. We're in Portugal. Okay, Lisbon, Portugal. And right there, you could get some of the best brown Lebanese hash you ever laid your hands on. And I'm talking, you can get a brick of this shit for like $30.
Wow, how big of a brick?
It was about a foot long and inch and a half thick.
God, how the hell would you get that on the ship? Stick it down in your pants?
Yeah. My daughter just said half a pound. Yeah. Smart kid. She knows math. She can figure out a math problem in a heartbeat.
I guess. Now, how much profit could you make off that?
Oh, dude, you could you could turn that $30 into, I would say, about easily close to 16,000.
Damn.
Okay. Very simple. And I said, fuck it. That's like Dick and Seti. He just asked me, he says, Robert, you could have made a lot of money, man. Retired a rich bastard. He asked me how much money I made. Oh, when the piss test come out, that scared the fuck out of me because I was, really starting to grow up. I was in my second year in the Navy, and I was a young third class E4 on my way to second class at the time. And I said, wow, I could make some major fucking scratch. All these fucking hop heads,
Mm-hmm.
And, because if you're going to sell it, don't fucking use it. You'll fuck up. All right. So I abstained. I abstained because they were going through spaces. They were fucking searching. They were finding, oh, dude, they were finding all kinds of shit. They were opening voids and fan rooms and finding, blocks of fucking marijuana and this and that. And they were just cleaning house. So right then and there, the government's cleaning house. We got to get the fucking drugs out of the Navy. And this was the start of a new social experiment where we are going to make our Navy clean cut. Okay? And if you look at the Navy today, the only thing these kids are doing is Red Bull,
Monsters, rock stars.
Yeah, Monsters, rock stars, you name it. If it's got a high caffeine count, they're sucking it down. Okay? They're sucking it down. And they do all this lovey-dovey shit now, clean beaches, do community service. No more fucking whores. No more going out drinking all night till 6 a.m.
Oh, God, our military is really going downhill.
Oh, the military is, I'm speaking just for the Navy, not the other three branches. But I will have to say the Chair Force, they've always been pussies and always will be pussies. Okay?
They get the good drugs, though.
And I don't care who that pisses that off.
How about the Coast Guard?
That's not even a branch of the military service. I think they're glorified EMTs or something like that.
Oh, come on, man! There's a lot of honor in chasing around cigarette boats in the Florida Keys.
Yeah, well, I mean, if that's what you want to do, be my guest. Okay. But this is when the wussification of the Navy started. Okay. And by the time 2000 rolled around, they had don't ask, don't tell. If you got caught with drugs even one time, you were sent to rehab for 30 days and you were administratively discharged. Really? And Yeah, and if it was a bad offense on drugs, you got the big chicken dinner, what we call the bad conduct discharge. Okay,
Mm.
plain and simple. And yeah, that's right. 3 days to get cocaine out of your system. Wes. You know what you're talking about.
Mushrooms is
Yeah.
24 hours.
Yeah, mushrooms are 24 hours. And Wes, I will tell you, I watched a lot of guys go to cocaine, go to other drugs that left their system quickly. They, yeah. What? No, 45, 45? Yeah, yeah. A commanding officer can give you non-judicial punishment, Bubba. And what he'll do is he'll give you 45 days restriction, 45 days extra duty, a $250 fine for 2 months. Okay, that means every payday, twice a month, $240 comes out of your fucking check. Okay?
Got to sell a lot of drugs. Well, a few drugs to make up for that.
Yeah, and he will drop you in a rank. Okay?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And essentially when a commanding officer does that to you, your career is over. Okay, especially if you're an NCO, a non-commissioned officer, E4 or above.
So
third
you
class.
actually take a bigger pay cut then because it's $250, and if they drop you in
Right.
a rank, now won't your pay also go down as a result because you're lower ranked?
Your pay will go way down. So say you're a second class petty officer and they drop you to third class petty officer, you will get third class petty officer pay as if you just made first class petty officer. You won't get it because like there are third class petty officers that have been in for a while, and even though you don't make a rank up every year, you get a pay raise like for time and rate. It's a time and rate pay raise. So kiss your time and rate goodbye as a petty officer. You're a brand new third class petty officer. Haha, you're fucked. You're making the lowest of all the other third class petty officers.
You're an E4.
Right. And I had a guy on the ship in my division. He was and this is a waste of talent. Okay. He's smart. He was an FC, a fire control technician. Okay.
Okay. Well, when you said FC, I was thinking fat chick.
No, it's actually he wasn't an FC. He was FT, fire control. They call them FTs, fire control technicians.
Okay.
Yeah, but a smart guy, just made first class. Okay, got caught smoking marijuana and doing cocaine. The commanding officer dropped him to second class petty officer, and that's all he gave him was just a bust. Right? He come up again on the piss test positive. Commanding officer gave him 45-45, 250 for 2, and a busted rank down to third class now.
His career's over.
Okay, his career is essentially over. All right. And at that time, I just made second class. So now I outrank this motherfucker who used to outrank me by 2 steps easily. Okay. And what a shitbird he was. And he got caught again, got busted down to E3, which is seaman.
Oh God.
Okay. And then did something foolish, got busted down again to seaman apprentice. And then when we pulled in, he was administratively discharged. All because he wouldn't stop with the fucking drugs. He pissed everything away.
Jesus.
Here you go. Here's a good one. We had an E7 with 6 months left till retirement, get busted for crack. Holy shit.
Oh my God.
For a hooker, E1, and bad conduct discharge. Oh my God. You know, Dick and Sider, you know exactly what that E7 threw away. Was he Army, Navy, what? And I'm telling you, when the government said you're not going to do drugs anymore, with our permission, they meant it. Okay. And Ronald Reagan really stopped it in the military, but it still goes on today. Okay. All right. Army. Yeah. So that's even above a staff sergeant, isn't it, Dick Insider? I forget what comes after staff sergeant. And you're not going to get away with it anymore because, dude, at that time in the 80s, I was in the nuclear program, and they piss tested me every 30 days, every friggin' 30 days. Was they don't want people working with that shit that's high as a kite. Okay, just don't want it. And
Okay,
when the government
that's a sergeant first class E7. Three
is
up,
it?
yeah, I believe it's
Okay.
3 up, 2 down.
3 up, 2 down.
Yeah, whereas a first
In the
sergeant, which is an
Yeah.
E8, or is that a master sergeant? Would be
Yeah,
3
Dick
up, 2
Insider
down.
was a CMS orderly, and at the time I had assigned fucker duties until he could be discharged. Yeah, I know your pain. When I rotated out of the Navy, I got sent to Jacksonville, and I got put in the piss test unit, and I had to, every time a shitbird that come in was gonna get his BCD, I had to piss test him. He was in the temporary hold unit. Yeah, Wes, I was the nuke. Only for 3 years, though. Them fuckers, them fucking glowworms, crazy bastards. I had to get the fuck out of that. Yeah. And yeah, when you go nuke, they put you in this program called the PRP program, Personal Reliability Program. And you have to make all your appointments. You have to do everything you have to do on your own. You can't, the command can't be telling you, you got to do this, you got to do that, Yeah, they do. We had what they call push buttons, Dick Insider, and I hated push buttons. They used to piss me off. They come out of A school and they got a really good grade, top 1 percentile, and they're automatically given their third class crow, which is E4. And when they got to the fleet, they thought they were really hot shit. But a lot of them got busted really quickly because they were just too much, too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He wanted to be an AZ.
What's an
okay? It's airman something. The Airedale rates I don't know really well, the brown shoe rates, but I only know some of them. But the black shoe rates I can rattle off for you. And it's an Airedale rate. Yeah. Well, Wes, I always used to tell everybody, and a lot of the kids that work for me, whatever church you friggin' trigger, because you're the one that's got to live with it at the end of the day, not me.
Okay. Yeah, a master sergeant or first sergeant is a E8. It's 3 up, 3 down in the Army.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wonder what rank Dave was. I think he was E6 or E7.
I think he was like E8, E9. I heard somebody call him top. Okay. Yeah. And that is a nickname for E8 or E9 in the Army.
Okay.
And Marine Corps. Yeah.
Okay. He's told me, I think, before, but I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, you work for a new power plant. You're raking in the cash. So.
Yeah, Dick, I wasn't that kind of a nuke. I was the guy that I was the guy that took care of the shit that went boom.
Okay, I can't let you guys fuck up the Army anymore, rank structure.
Hey, we're being polite about it, so go fuck off, Baggio Life, all right? We've been very polite about it, all right? Kiss my fucking anchors, okay?
Okay, listen. E5, you're an NCO, sergeant. E6, staff sergeant. That's 3 up, 1 rocker. E7, which I was, 3 up, 2 rockers. E8, 3 up, 3 down. Master sergeant. 3 up, 3 down with the diamond. First sergeant. Then sergeant, then it goes sergeant major with the star. Then the star with the wreath around it. Command sergeant major. Dave was a first E8.
He was an E8.
See, I was correct. I said E8 or E9. I was correct.
Yeah, you were. So.
And you got to be E5 in the
well, no, actually, they
in
got
the Army
E4.
to be considered.
They got
Stop.
corporal.
Let me
They got
ask this
corporal.
question.
They got
Let me ask
corporals.
this. Hey, let me ask this question.
Yeah.
You got to be an E5 to be considered an NCO in the Army?
No, corporal E4. E4 corporal.
Okay, E4 and above is NCO then, right?
Yeah, but we have, but the Army never got rid of the.
That's like specialist first class, correct?
Well, my father in Vietnam was a Spec 6. Believe it or not, when the Army had specialist ranks.
Only the Army could fucking complicate ranks, you know?
That does make things complicated.
Yeah. But you see, my grandfather retired in E7 in 1958.
Yeah, but we care about now.
They considered him not a sergeant first class. They called him a technical sergeant back in the day. They were tech sergeants.
Okay. Dick Insider just said
E4 corporals in combat arms. Yeah, he's right. Dick Insider's right.
Yeah. And specialist, not an NCO.
Yes, it is. Corporal is an NCO.
No, he said specialist is not an NCO.
No.
Okay. Huh.
All right, let's get off the rank structure and let's get back to the psychedelic talk.
Well, I got a good Air Force and drug story.
Okay.
If it's Air Force story, does the drug along with the drugs, does that include sucking dick too?
Well, no, my buddies. I got a really good.
Well, your buddy.
Yeah. Hold on now. Believe it or not, he works for the Baltimore Zoo. And
oh God, anybody living in Baltimore, that's a fucking.
Well, he doesn't live in Baltimore. He just works in Baltimore. They had gotten some kind of two brand new chimpanzees in. Come to find out, the Air Force were using them as lab animals to test PCP. They were actually drug addicted to PCP.
Okay.
Love boat.
Yeah, he's talking about chimpanzees. Chimpanzees, they're friggin' monkeys. All right, fucking Baggio Life got a monkey story going. Carry on smartly.
Yeah. At ease, stand firm, stand tall. Shut up, because I outrank you because I had more time in grade.
I outrank you both. It's my show.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, what they did.
I'm glad to announce.
What they did was to find out these two fucking chimpanzees were freaking the fuck out all the time. Well, come to find out, they did their research, and they were former lab animals that the Air Force was using to test the effects of PCP and drug use back during the Carter administration.
So, how do you feel about that?
Personally, I don't care.
And why don't you care?
Why?
Why don't you care?
Quit breathing heavy. Pull the mic
Yeah.
away from your mouth. There you go. Come on.
Look, I'm
Sound
having
like
a bad
Mark
day.
David.
I didn't get to take my mini vacation.
I'm sorry about that, brother, but I didn't do it to you, okay? Don't take it out on
We
me.
got as
Have a cup of coffee. You'll feel better.
we got as far as. Yes, I know. You could bite him when he comes to visit.
He'll die if he bites me, bro.
Well, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close the show.
You gonna shut this shit show down, Bubba?
I am, because I have to get ready and go meet the fellas at G Mall for coffee. And
All right, give all the boys in the band my best.
I will. And thanks for coming on, Baggy Owl Life, and thanks for coming on, Robert.
Oh, you're welcome, bro.
Thanks to the audience for tuning in. We appreciate it.
9:30.
So, but anyway, thanks for tuning in.
Can I shamelessly plug?
Yeah, go ahead.
Tune in, Popeye and the Grunt.
Come on, spit it out.
When and what day?
Tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m. Philippines Standard Time.
Okay.
9:30 a.m. if you're on the East Coast. Oscar Mike would have to get up to listen.
Okay.
All right, Bubba.
All right. Anything you guys want to add before I shut it down?
We covered it all. Great topics, man. Enjoyed shooting the shit with you, brother.
All right, you too, brother, and you too, Baggy Out Life. Y'all take care, and thanks to the audience for tuning in. We appreciate you. And
I will drop you a link for Saturday night.
Cool. And may the sun be shining wherever you may be. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
All righty.